Welcome to week one of OT 527. What I'd like to do over the course of the next few minutes is briefly introduce the course, discuss the course format and the course agenda, and then briefly introduce week one. In terms of the course schedule, the weeks are going to go generally from Monday to Sunday, like a normal week does. But there's going to be a little bit of bleed over or overlap with the course discussion, the weekly discussions. So your initial post for the weekly discussion will take place on Thursday or due on Thursday. And then the back and forth discussion, the dialogue that will take place within your groups will happen from Thursday night until Monday. And I've picked up on the habit of extending the weekly discussions to Monday because many students take Sunday off or are in full-time ministry in some way or are busy on Sunday. And so by ending the weekly discussions on Sunday, often some students missed out or just felt rushed to post things. But because I want a true dialogue to happen, a real back and forth discussion, I've extended the discussion to Monday. Hopefully it doesn't cause too much confusion with kind of wrapping up a previous week's discussion while getting into the new week's material, but I think it's a more effective way of doing it. Now, in terms of each week has kind of a very similar structure. You're going to have what are called primary readings, and these are readings either from the book of Ecclesiastes or somewhere else in the Old Testament, or also from the ancient Near East as well. So there's going to be a number of kind of ancient Near Eastern comparative readings. There's a lot of wisdom literature from the ancient Near East. Much of it is very similar or has similar perspectives or format or structure to the book of Ecclesiastes. And so in order to broaden our understanding and appreciation for the book of Ecclesiastes, I've included various comparative readings. We also have some secondary readings. And your two most important secondary readings, or I should say the two secondary readings you're going to consistently interact with are, the first one is Bartholomew's commentary in the book of Ecclesiastes and the Baker commentary in the Old Testament series. And I'll just briefly explain one of the reasons why I chose Bartholomew's commentary, in addition to the fact that it's a very good historical critical commentary that interacts deeply with the book of Ecclesiastes and brings a lot of insight from various perspectives. One of the reasons why I chose it was because of the introduction. It's a very, very full introduction, and he does a lot. In that introduction regarding the history of interpretation of the book of Ecclesiastes, which I find is very, very important for just entering into the dialogue, the dialogue of interpretation that has taken place over the course of 2,000 years. And then your second consistent secondary reading is a commentary by Robert Holmstead and two other scholars. And this is a grammatical commentary on the book of Ecclesiastes. Very, very different than Bartholomew's commentary. And Holmstead is he's solely focused, or they are solely focused on helping readers understand the grammar and the syntax of the book of Ecclesiastes. You'll find that the introduction is very, very dense, which is why I've broken it up into 2 weeks. And I want you to just really focus on taking out of that introduction the most important aspects or the things that stand out to you in terms of helping you to understand and interpret the book of Ecclesiastes. And I realize that many students come from different backgrounds in terms of how and when and where they learned Hebrew. Some might have taken a year-long Hebrew grammar course or a 2-quarter Hebrew grammar course here at Fuller, or maybe even just the Hebrew Tools for Interpretations course. And so what Holmsted's commentary is going to do is it's really going to hold your hand and walk you through the often very, very difficult Hebrew of the book of Ecclesiastes. And so I want you to use that often. And in fact, I call Bartholomew's commentary and Homestead's commentary dialogue partners. That is, as you complete your translation assignments and your exegetical notebook each week, I want you to be in constant dialogue with both of those commentaries. As you translate, you should be interacting and referencing them the entire way through the course. And so consider them your dialogue partners. You'll also have some secondary readings from various articles or other books that interact with the book of Ecclesiastes. And I've done this to broaden our discussion and broaden our perspective and broaden the voices that we engage and listen to during the study. And so you'll see that these articles discuss things in terms of the ancient Near Eastern context, text criticism of the book of Ecclesiastes, how one should translate the book of Ecclesiastes, how does the book of Ecclesiastes speak about women, what do post-colonial interpreters have to say about the book of Ecclesiastes, and then toward the very end of the course, the readings get into using the book of Ecclesiastes for ministry. And so I try to provide various and different voices and add those to the discussion. And then also each week you'll have a select number of topics for each class or that week. Some of these topics I will address via video lecture, and you'll see those linked in each week's page. Others are covered by either the secondary readings or the commentaries, i.e. your dialogue partners. And then I've also added an element each week that engages the reception history of Ecclesiastes. And one of the things that we often forget is that these biblical books have a life of their own. They're not just stuck in the pages of your Old and New Testaments. They are picked up by various aspects of popular culture, of church culture, and they inspire art. They create contexts for people to understand life. They're used in various media. And so what I've tried to do is introduce week by week just a little bit of the reception history. So how Ecclesiastes is influenced or been used or picked up by various art forms. And so, I have art that is kind of physical art, paintings and things like that. I have poetry, music. And so I hope you find that enjoyable. It's something to just kind of take a break from the academic side a little bit and engage Ecclesiastes with a different part of your brain. So those are the primary kind of that's the primary material each week that you'll be going through. And then out of that material, you have two weekly assignments. And this first assignment is what I call the exegetical notebook. And you'll find the instructions and the format, the template for that in the Getting Started page, which you can access via the Canvas course homepage. Now, the exegetical notebook is meant to be kind of a running commentary that you will create each week through your interaction with the book of Ecclesiastes. And I won't go into it at length here because I've given you very detailed instructions, but primarily involves doing a translation, outlining the passage, and then doing a very detailed verse-by-verse analysis of the passage with some very specific questions that I want you to address. And this will be an assignment that you will turn in each week. I will then give you feedback as soon as I possibly can so that you can use that feedback to improve each week's submissions. And I also do want to stress that I want you to submit this as a running assignment. So when you submit week 2, I want that to include week 1's analysis or week 1's entry as well. By the time you've submitted week 8, I want week 1 through 7 preceding week 8 so that I can see how you've progressed and if you've been able to make the changes that I have that I've recommended, or at least kind of have taken those in consideration and implemented my notes and responses. So that's the first assignment each week, is this exegetical notebook. The second assignment is the weekly discussions, the weekly discussion posts. And again, I won't go into this in detail here because I've given you very specific instructions as well as posted a video for how I want the format to go. But I've broken you down into groups, which you'll stay in those groups throughout the duration of the course. And those weekly discussions are primarily based on the secondary literature. You have two other assignments that aren't due weekly. They're actually only due once. And one is a reading response paper, which is due around week 8. And that is going to be a comparative analysis, or kind of a paper in which you read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And you're going to put that into dialogue with the book of Ecclesiastes. And again, I've posted instructions for that. And then your final assignment is what's called the signature assignment. It's basically an exegetical paper that you'll submit during finals week. If you have any questions, again, please let me know. Now, let me basically introduce the book of Ecclesiastes in week 1. Ecclesiastes is a very, very enigmatic text. It is wisdom literature. It's speculative. It's often considered very, very pessimistic. It's prose and poetry, so you'll find both of these genres as we translate. And there's a lot of issues that come up with the book of Ecclesiastes, some of them being authorship. Who is Kohelet? Who wrote the book of Ecclesiastes? When was it wrote? Or when was it written, I should say. And where was it written? And then also, what is the book's perspective or theology? And each of these topics is much debated. I will try to guide you into the discussion, as well as let you know where I kind of plant my flag, and how that, I think, shapes one's interpretation. But I look forward to the ensuing discussion and dialogue on these topics. This course is going to be a journey through the book of Ecclesiastes with a very, very detailed focus on the Hebrew text. And so I look forward to guiding you through this. It can be a challenging course for many people who maybe Hebrew is not their strongest point. But again, I hope I've given you some very, very useful tools to help shepherd you through the Hebrew of these passages. One last kind of administrative note: I do want you to download the app Marco Polo. Contact me on that so that we can kind of develop an informal way to discuss issues that come up each week in a way that is outside of the Canvas course webpage. So I hope you have a great week. I look forward to interacting with you. You'll see a weekly introduction, much shorter than this one, at the beginning of each week. And I hope to use these to answer questions that you raise, either in the dialogue or one-on-one with me. And so I also hope that this is a format that I can help to answer your questions and help you to better engage the course material. Have a great week, and I look forward to engaging with you during this first week and the rest of the course. Thanks.